All right, so here's a question. Why do you want to become financially literate? How would using financial literacy skills to manage your wealth help you? This probably sounds like a silly question, as who doesn't want advice on how to manage money wisely for it to build up? But goal setting plays a huge part in financial literacy, as it's really clear motivation for spending money wisely. As you start generating income regularly, setting financial goals are also very good at keeping you from overspending, as those who don't have a purchase they're working towards are much more likely to spend money on things they don't need. Financial goals have a huge range and can be short or long-term. Some examples of short-term thinking would be making a purchase that isn't necessarily too expensive, but you still want to work towards. Are you aiming for a guitar on the pricier side? Or maybe that skirt you were eyeing at the mall the other day? Probably not something you'd be spending years putting money aside to buy. However, it's still a great goal, especially if you're just getting the hang of earning and saving up money. Financial goals can also be long-term. There are many common financial goals people save towards. As those watching are likely to be youth, you youngsters have quite some time before you have to start thinking about these, such as saving up money to buy a house or a car, paying off student loans, and way in the long run, saving money for retirement. Some advice when it comes to actually creating financial goals and working towards them? Well, remember how goals can be short-term or long-term, and they can even fall anywhere in between? Well, it would be best to start with determining where your goals lie and how long it will take for you to achieve them. Can you afford it if you grind for a month or two? Or is it a purchase worth thousands of dollars, with you needing to set aside a chunk of your paycheck for years before meeting this goal? Start with doing your research on how much money things will cost, and then compare it to the money you expect to make on a regular basis. You can then figure out a plan to save up over time towards your planned purchase with parts of your disposable income, which is earned money you have left over after paying for necessities. After making this plan of how much you want to contribute to your financial goals over time, set aside the money you plan to contribute to your goals before spending anything else in your paycheck to make sure you don't ditch your plan and spend all your money elsewhere. And there you have it. Once again, setting goals and making plans to make relatively big expenses with money set aside is key to financial success and avoiding useless spending. So keep that in mind as you start to generate income.